Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. This week, we are starting the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, The Hero of Ages, and we read the prologue and chapters 1, 2, and 3, wherein we really hit the ground running with this one. And we get some various perspectives. We see Marsh again, we see TenSoon again, we see Elend again. Things are happening, and I think everyone will be very pleased that none of it seems to be in Luthadel. So I'm Data, and with me is
Dak,
Joe,
and Jaymee.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as a reaper comes to ground, you turn to face it down because you must. And when the world starts to burn, at the point of no return, keep a hold of your conviction, tear out the affliction, before the world turns black. Stand up and take it back.
So yeah, and hope everyone enjoys our new song since we're going to be using it for 21 weeks. That one is Take It Back by Miracle of Sound, and was, I think, if I remember correctly, is written based on Mass Effect 3. There's even a reference to a Reaper in the clip that we used. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I really like the way this book starts out, just kind of like going. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. What did you guys think of these prologue plus 3 chapters, so 4-ish?
that prologue was like some heavy-duty nightmare fuel.
Ooh, yeah.
Just like, oh, that's how they do it. Oh, shit. Okay. It explains so much in a very short amount of time. Like, okay. Wow.
It explains a lot and kind of goes on a similar vein to what we sort of thought already, but made it so much worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, yeah, the opening chapters, and it's like we're starting this book with a bang. There's like a lot of action, and I really enjoyed that little battle scene. I liked seeing how Elend has really come through as a character. I liked that finally the Inquisitors are back in the action, because I think that was one of the things I definitely missed out of book 2, was I found the Inquisitors fascinating in book 1, and I really missed them. So cool to see them back in, and yeah, the conclusion of that fight was fantastic. I should probably right out the gate just comment. I don't know if I cheated or not. I read the blurb on the back of the book as well, which...
Oh, I have no idea what that says.
Jack, you don't read anything you're not told to.
Read the blurb out loud so that we all know what the blurb said.
Okay, so it goes, who is the hero of ages? For reference, I don't think there's anything on here that really spoils anything that we didn't learn in these chapters, except maybe one thing, but to end the final empire and restore freedom, Vin killed the Lord Ruler. But as a result, the deepness, the lethal form of the ubiquitous mists, is back, along with increasingly heavy ashfalls and ever more powerful earthquakes. Humanity appears to be doomed. Having escaped death only by becoming a Mistborn himself, Emperor Elend Venture hopes to find clues left behind by the Lord Ruler that will allow him to save the world. Meanwhile, Vin is consumed with guilt at accidentally releasing the mystic force known as Ruin from the well. So, I mean, from the prologue, we know that Ruin is the force, so that's no spoiler there.
Yeah, I think most of that is, I mean, the thing about the Lord Ruler leaving clues, that I don't think that's covered here, but other than that, I think that's mostly stuff we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so bad. Everybody knows now.
Yeah, now we're all on the same footing.
I wonder if authors get like a say in what goes in the back of the book. I have no clue.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like theatrical trailers where like
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
have no say in what gets put in the trailer.
They just like spoil the big twist right in the middle of the trailer because somebody thought it was cool, and the director is like hands on his head, like, why? Yeah, that would be bad. I don't know. No, that's an interesting question that I'm not going to have to ask an author someday. Be like, do you get to pick what goes on the back? Although, now that I think about it, on the back of his Stormlight books, I think is clearly something that he wrote specifically for the back of them. Because it's, if I'm remembering correctly, it's like in the voice of a character that I don't even know if we've met in the books at this point. So maybe they do get to say.
Maybe after he saw the blurbs on these books, he was like, I'm writing my own blurbs.
But this one is the anniversary edition of the book, so...
Oh, well then I guess they just expect you to know all that already.
Yeah, possibly.
They're just trying to rope you in, get you interested, even though I don't know why you'd start with the third book, even if you did get that summer.
Well, like right below it says, the conclusion of the Mistborn trilogy fulfills all the promise of the first two books in a finale unmatched for originality and audacity. Like, it's a whole lot of big words there.
Indeed. Okay, sorry. Everyone else, what did you think?
I just wrote over Joe right there.
Are we original and audacious yet?
What does that mean?
He said that he just read the thing about originality and audacity.
In our podcast?
No, I mean, are the chapters that we read original and audacious
I was about to say, we quote stuff all the time. I don't feel like that's very original. But, yeah, they're all right.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, exactly. No, I really like these chapters. They did something that was so much better than what the last book did. It gave me lots of delicious knowledge nuggets. Okay, maybe it's because I'm taking notes on this book and I haven't for the last two books. I've just been keeping it all in my noodle. But I made so many notes on the prologue and the first three chapters. There's just there's so many tiny delicious bits of information in this first part of the book, and that is satisfying, right? I feel like I'm being fed, right? I feel like I'm getting some of the answers, some of the story, and it's all happening really quick in this first book. Again, if I had to wait if I had read the second book when it first came out and then I had to wait to read this one, I'd be really annoyed because of how much deliciousness we got as far as knowledge goes in these first chapters.
He really does kind of knowledge dump a couple times here, but not in like a way that feels too expositional, I think, which is nice.
No, it's like it's the sort of things like you mentioned is like, yeah, he did do that. I didn't notice just because I was enjoying it.
Right.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but there's several times where in this book where the epigraphs especially are kind of like, hey, here's information that there's no other way for the author to give to you, so you're going to get it in this epigraph.
Yeah. And I mean, by the second epigraph, I know who the Hero of Ages is. So, or at least according to the epigraph writer.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I agree. It was really good to jump straight into it. We didn't have to have a lot of talk and trying to figure out where everyone's up to. It was just straight into it from the end of the last book, which was really nice. Don't know how much time has passed. Enough time for Ellen to practice some allomancy, but it doesn't seem like too much time has passed, which is good. I think we had quite a jump between books last time around. So yeah, that was pretty good. That first the prologue with Marsh is I appreciate a lot of answers and things in there, but it was quite nasty. And I really enjoyed that we got a little bit about TenSoon as well and where he is how he's being imprisoned. Nice to know that he's sort of coming back as a character and we still get to focus on him a little bit. So yeah, it was good. Lots of information. Yeah,
we actually get, and I thought that Dak would be pleased because we get what he was asking for last time. He's like, I want to see a conjurer without like being a body or impersonating someone.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey, look, in chapter 2.
That made me so happy.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
dope.
He's very descriptive too with like the way he talks about like it being muscle and stuff, which is like, it gave me a really good idea of like, okay, I kind of understand what that looks like.
It was a really visceral description.
Mm-hmm.
Muscle that can only taste. Like taste is pretty much its only sense.
Yeah, it seems
taste and
that way.
touch.
So it's like a big tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
That doesn't make it better.
No.
Well, he said he could smell the acid, or was he tasting the acid on the air?
I think he was tasting it on the air.
Like a snake.
And he can hear too, I think, even if he doesn't have ears. He just can't see, it seems like.
Well, it seemed like he was hearing by feeling the vibrations. He's like,
yeah, I guess. It's like a snake.
And to answer your question, Jaymee, I believe, based on Marsh saying here that he's been an Inquisitor for 3 years, that it's been about a year since the last book, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think it's about the same as between the first and the second book, actually. Like, it was like a year or between a year and 2 years, something in that area, rather.
Well, it started as like, it was about a year ago the Empire toppled, and then by the end of the book, it was like, it's been 2 years since the Empire toppled. And it's like, this book really stretched it out that far.
It stretched out a while because they were like under siege for months. That's a good point. Yeah.
They had so much politicking. Well, you think about how often Parliament actually sits.
Oh God.
Okay, I guess let's get into these. So we start off with Marsh in the prologue, and he is struggling to kill himself because he has no control over his own body. Which,
This just sounds like an awful way to live.
yeah. I mean, we theorized at the end of the last book, it's like, maybe he's got that voice speaking to him and it's like influencing him to do things, but it's like, oh, no. It's controlling him completely, and he has no choice at all.
So and this is like the first nugget, right? Because they mention ruin in this part.
Yeah.
So I think my theory last time was correct. It's like maybe the voice was ruin, and then he's taken over by ruin when ruin leaves the well.
Oh, because ruin's out now. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think he's being directly controlled now, whereas before it was just influence. And I'm guessing, and then I'm just guessing that my theory about more, well, it was several of our theories, I think, that more spikes equals more like control over that person. So the Inquisitors were probably being controlled and influenced a lot more than Zane. And now like Ruin's actually just taken over Marsh completely.
Yeah.
Or maybe just the fact that he was freed means he has more control over anyone with the spikes in them. I don't know.
Well, that would actually explain, because my question I was about to ask was for something that was trapped in the well, Ruin seems to have had a lot of control over the outside world, considering it was able to talk to people who had the spikes, and it was able to amend the prophecies and whatnot.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, why does it even need to be freed at all? It seems like he's doing just fine on his own. But I guess what you're saying makes sense now that he's out. If he has more control, that would probably go a long way to explaining stuff like that. So
yeah, and we know that things are getting worse since Ruin was out, and even says on the what you read on the back of the book, it's like more ash and earthquakes and things are now happening. So it's clear that his influence is increasing, assuming that's him, that he can do more now that he's out, or whatever.
The other big question, of course, is if Ruin is an actual force, like a sentient force. Like we talked a lot about what TenSoon said in the last book about Ruin and preservation. Does that mean preservation is also like an external force? I'm thinking like Rava and Vatu from Legend of Korra, just like they're gonna duke it out at some point.
We're gonna get Kaiju Vin, is what you're saying, and like Kaiju Marsh.
Yeah, it made me think honestly of, I almost wonder if the relationship between these two forces is like the relationship between the two characters in Lost.
Jacob and Ben, not Ben.
Not Ben. Whatever the other guy's name is. I always want to say Esau, but that's definitely not it.
Jacob and John Locke, but not really John Locke, because he like takes his body, but it wasn't really him. Yeah, no, I don't remember. That by then the show was getting really weird, so because that's like right at the end when you finally meet both of them.
Mm-hmm. One guy was in the Big Lebowski.
I chose to black out the end of that show.
Yeah, I'm just don't need to remember that. But so there's a bunch of these Inquisitors around, and they've got a prisoner who is strapped down, and he's like, "Please, what do you want? I can't tell you anymore." And there's a bit in here where it's like the prisoner wasn't gagged, of course. That would have stopped the screams.
Can't have that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just controlling Marsh's actions, it's like controlling his feelings, where he's like, "Oh, I love to hear them scream." It's so weird.
It's like the Inquisitors are always got that slasher smile thing going on, so they just love the gore and the horror and I'm sure they'd be fans of the Saw movies.
Yep, sure. So he's tied on top of the table on top of another person, and Marsh has a brass spike, which he rams through the guy's heart and into the person below him.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Mm. Yeah.
Which I think this is the first time we've confirmed that all the spikes in the Inquisitors are the different metals, yeah? Or at least that's the implication I got out of this.
Let's see. Does it say
they're steel spikes to their eyes, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they mentioned that they're steel through the eyes. That sounds familiar. And we know that at least this one is brass, because that's what he says. So it does sound like they are the different metals.
Or at least some of them.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, if both the ones in the eyes are steel, then it's like, okay, all right. How many were there? Where are they all located? Blah, blah, blah. Presumably there's no aluminium spike through there. That would just be a waste of time. but like, yeah, I presume this is how they get their allomantic powers, just because they basically have it constantly in them.
And he gives us information because he's thinking about it, and he's like, it is laying across the land, but something kept it from affecting the world too much by itself. An opposition that lay over the land like a shield. And then it says, it was not yet complete. It needed something more. Something hidden.
Something secret. Something safe.
Is it? And then we find out that it calls itself Ruin. And then we get the name of what they are doing. It is called Hemalurgy. And it says Hemalurgy was a messy art.
Yeah, which sounds like, I'm just going off my etymology here. Hema sounds like blood, so it's like blood.
Yep.
Blood forging or something.
Bloodcraft.
So we have the names of the 3 metallic arts of Scadrial. Together they're called the metallic arts. And I told you guys before that the way people talk about it, they're like, the first book is kind of allomancy based or focused, and the second book focuses more on feruchemy. And I wondered if anyone would put together that it's like, oh, well, then the third book would have to focus on a different metallic art, and that is Hemalurgy.
Nope, that flew straight over my head.
Yeah, well, you said that ages ago. I don't remember.
And then we move into part 1, the legacy of the survivor. And the epigraph is, I am unfortunately the hero of ages. So we are going to get a hero of ages, it sounds like. Unless this is like another Alendi like written thing.
Or at least someone who thinks they're the hero
Unless
of
that
ages.
person is deluding themselves, yeah.
Yeah, that could be too. I hadn't thought of that.
Delusions.
And we get a viewpoint from a guy named Fatrin, who Brandon says in the annotations, he thought about making a main viewpoint character in this book because he felt like, starting off with this guy, it would make sense for him to be a main viewpoint character, but he felt like he needed someone to show Ellen showing up. And then he worked on it for a while, and he realized that this guy didn't need to be a main viewpoint character. He was kind of trying to force it for this one reason. And so in the end, he was just like, fine, I'll just have this one-off chapter from this other guy. So I hope nobody was...
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, yep, someone's going to make a grand entrance. We've got another viewpoint.
Now, anytime you have the random viewpoint, like Carr or Fatrin, you'll be like, there's going to be an entrance.
Yep.
Well, it was the same with Wellen. He's like standing on the walls, and all of a sudden Ben and Zane popped up, and it's like, okay.
Yep.
I thought this was going to be our new hero. I was like, this is it. Fatrin's our new guy. Forget all those other people in the last book.
Yeah, we're just going to focus on this guy the whole book. That'll be great. Well, he's going to be in Mistborn also somehow. But we meet this guy who has been trying to protect his little city, him and his brother Druffle. And they've...
I get fantasy names, sometimes a bit different. I get that, and for the most part, I just suspend. I just suspend my, all right, no worries, that's his name. Druffle, for some reason, that broke me. I have no idea why, but that name is just like, Druffle?
I think of Duffel every time, like a duffel bag.
Or they might as well just call him Snuffles. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I just started calling him Mushroom because I was thinking of truffles.
Sure. He doesn't have that much of a presence in the chapter, so you can call him whatever you want, probably. But
Mushroom it is.
Yeah. They're Fatrin is disheartened because his brother used to be so cheery, and now they're all just like, oh, we're gonna die. The sun's not out long enough to the mist didn't leave until noon today, so the sun's not out long enough to help the food grow. And I was okay with the name Fatrin until you realize that the short version is Fats, and everyone yells Fats at him.
Yeah. And then during the fight, Ellen refers to him as the beefy leader. I'm like, oh god.
I didn't even put that together.
So he lives up to his name.
Yeah. So they know Koloss are coming, and they're not happy about it because they know that there's basically nothing they can do. They don't even know how many Koloss there are, but they're like, it's going to be enough to kill us.
One is too many.
Well, yeah.
It's like Fatrin told himself he had a force of 2,000 quote-unquote soldiers, but what he really had was 1,000 Ska peasants with swords. Oh, man. But they have managed to keep the town this long, as we find out. They've defended themselves and kept things going pretty well, so he should be commended for that at least.
No.
And then someone's like, they see a lone rider approaching on a horse wearing a dark hooded cloak. And they're like, huh, you think that's a Koloss scout? It's like, no. Maybe you don't know the Koloss at all, but they don't use scouts, especially not human ones.
Yeah. They don't need to.
And Druffle's just like, that guy has a horse. We could use one of them.
Is that how Druffle sounds to you?
Yes, exactly.
Well, if they're brothers, then Fats has got to have a similar voice. So like,
No, not really.
We can use one of them horses. Thinking I'd take some of these French fried potatoes home.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Yeah. And then, as they're talking about trying to rob this stranger of his horse, he shoots up into the air, dropping his cloak and showing a brilliant white uniform beneath. So I don't know who you guys thought this was as somebody rides up, if you thought it was Vin or who, but this is Ellen's turn to be a badass.
Yeah, I wasn't sure until then because I didn't think it was Vin because they just mentioned it as a normal cloak. They didn't make mention of it being a Mistborn cloak. Even if they didn't know what one looked like, they would know that it wouldn't look like a normal cloak if it was.
It looks weird. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they would have mentioned the tassels.
Exactly. So I was like, well, it's not Vin. But then when the white uniform, oh, okay, it's Ellen.
Yeah, white uniform was Ellen. It's like before that, I thought, oh, it could be Breeze, maybe.
And a guy pulls a sword on him, and he uses Allomancy to yank it out of his hand. He's like, yeah, it's a nice sword. Here you go. And
Classic Ellen.
Yeah, he plays this whole thing really. He plays it really hard, as if he's here to help. And at some point during the discussion, he makes it seem like he was called for assistance, so that the guy in charge can kind of, without losing face, give over control of this city.
Yeah, and also, if he can smooth talk his way into just getting them to join him, it's like they'll have more faith in both of the guys. It's like, oh, you called this guy for help, and he's doing, he's gonna get us to fight against these, they'll feel more confident. So it's a good play on both ends.
Fatron's like, wait, who are you? He's like, my name is Ellen Venture. I'm your emperor. Somebody in the Discord was talking about like a Venture Brothers like game or show or something that with like Ellen and Zane as the Venture Brothers. And for the longest time, I was like, he kept saying Venture Brothers, and I was like, why are we talking about that show? What does that have to do with what was being said before? It took me forever to remember. Oh, right, Ellen is named Venture, and he has a brother. Okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah, I made that joke way back in the first book, not knowing he had a brother.
But yeah, you guys would want a sitcom with Ellen and Zane maybe sharing an apartment, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, these two, one's from nobility, the other's from the streets. Will they ever get along? The Venture Brothers.
Special guest, the talking dog.
Oh, yeah. That's the breakout character of the show. That's the Steve Urkel of the Venture Brothers.
It's like, I'm going on a date with Vin tonight. No, I'm going on a date with Vin tonight.
What? Yeah.
Wacky and then a surprise twist, neither is. She's going on patrol with the dog.
See you guys later. Come on, TenSoon. Oh.
Yeah, she walks in and they both like walk up with smiles on their face, and she gets down and pets the dog and just turns and leaves with the dog. We're writing this whole thing now.
Yeah, it writes itself. Come on, Brandon. Contact us.
Oh gosh. But anyway, back to our emperor. And he's acting like it's all business. He's like, okay, I'm here to help, so I'm gonna show you guys how to fight the Koloss. We don't have a lot of time, but I'll give you some tips. And he starts explaining how the Koloss work, which I think is half just Brandon being like, I need to remind everybody about how these things work before they show up.
There were tidbits that I didn't know before, like when he explains exactly how to fight them. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah. When he's like, these are things that he's learned in the last year of fighting Koloss. Let's see. And so he gets the guy talking, and it's like, hey, do you guys have any battle experience? And they're like, we fought enough to be dangerous. Ugh. Have you ever fought Koloss? Men who fight Koloss don't live. And he's just like, oh, if that were true, I'd be dead a dozen times over. So that's the part where we learn that Ellen's been fighting a lot this last year. And he says, they're like, wait, so did you bring an army to help us? He's like, I brought 2, actually, but we don't have time to wait for them. And that's where he puts in, he's like, you wrote and asked for my help, so I've come to give it. Don't you still want it? And Fatron puts together real quick in his head. He knows exactly what this guy's doing. And he also knows that they stand absolutely no chance without him. So he's like, I just didn't expect you to come alone. But really, I also suspect that a lot of what we're seeing here from Fatron's perspective is Ellen messing with his emotions some to make him a little more agreeable.
Yeah, I feel like he was probably doing that from the moment he got there.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like that Brandon doesn't kind of spell it out for us. You have to think about, he's now a Mistborn, so he's going to be doing diplomacy, but he's also going to be soothing at the same time.
Yeah. And I think you can read from the reactions that everyone has. Part of it may be that, he's got this noble bearing and he's used to command at this point, so people are running to do what he says. But I think there's probably a decent amount of allomancy going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the part where Fatrin was like, oh, he commanded them and they immediately started to do it. Now they're already taking orders from him. It's like, yeah, dude, he's soothing them.
And so finally, when they're like more alone, he's like, who are you? And Ellen's like, well, who I said I am. He's like, I don't believe you. It's like, but you're going to trust me, though? And the guy's like, no, I just don't want to argue with an allomancer. He's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Look, you have 10,000 Koloss coming, so we're going to need to go ahead and get this going. And he didn't expect 10,000, but, that's what it is. And he says that his name is Fatrin, and Ellen's like, okay, well, Lord Fatrin. And he's like, I'm not a lord. He's like, well, you're one now. You can choose a surname later. Let's do the things.
The important things.
Yep. And I like how he's still trying to push back. Ellen's like, okay, look, if I'm going to help you, then you're going to swear fealty to me if we win. And the guy's like, oh, you just come in here right before the fight and try to take credit for our victory. It's like, dude, did you hear about the 10,000 Koloss? Like, how do you see this victory happening?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I see. So even if we survive, then we're going to end up ruled by a tyrant. And Ellen's just like, yep, used to try to do things differently. And maybe someday we can, but right now we need this place. And he's like, why do you need my city? And like, we'll get to that later. So any theories on that one?
Oh, yeah. I got the nuggets, the knowledge nuggets.
The knowledge nuggets. Okay.
So they talk about maybe they should have been mining instead of training to fight. And I'm like, oh, well, they got ore. And maybe it's even adium. Maybe these are the pits of Hassan and they built a city around it. That's why I was trying to remember if one of these guys was the guy that Kelsier had saved at the pits.
Oh, I see.
But I don't know that they're the pits of Hassan necessarily, but it's definitely some. I think Ellen wants the mine, whether it's the pits of Hassan or a different mine.
I don't think they are, because I think they mentioned they were in the southern dominance, which is not where the pits are.
Yeah. Well, but do we know that that's? I mean, as far as the Lord Ruler said, that's the only adium mine that exists. But we also find out that later that Vin's burning a different element that can do something similar to adium. Or help block adium's power, so maybe it's an electrum mine. I don't know, but
possibly, yeah.
Well, electrum's an alloy, so I don't think you mine alloys.
I guess. Oh, sorry, gold mine. My bad.
There you go.
Yeah, possibly.
Actually, no, I may have just lied to you completely, because when I look it up, it says electrum is a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver.
Well, there you go.
Oh. So I may be completely
gold
wrong.
and silver. That's interesting, because
so we know it's not an electrum mine.
If
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Like it was too much of a silver alloy, then presumably it wouldn't work, because it would have to be gold.
Right. Well, and I think that gives us enough information that we're kind of filling in our scorecard here, where it was like you had the 8 basic metals that were in, the 2x2 kind of grid, right, with 4 metals and then 4 alloys of those metals. And then we had adium and gold, which never made any sense because they were by themselves and neither was an alloy of the other. And then we discovered
there was a malatium,
right? The alloy of adium.
The alloy of atium.
And now we have the alloy of gold.
We never did ask about that. God, given how much time we spent asking, what's the 9th metal in the first book?
Well, now we're just getting so many, it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, we got aluminum and duralumin.
Yeah, see, that kind of throws the whole thing into out of whack again, because now we have 2 full grids, but we also added some others.
Yeah, there's more metals than anyone knew.
Okay. So he starts teaching them about the Koloss. Some are tall, some are short. You want to gang up on them. 2 for the small ones, 3 or 4 for the big ones. Don't worry about the ones that get in town behind you. I like how he tells them. He's like, yeah, this is a nice wall, but it's not going to do anything against the Koloss. We had much nicer walls in Luthadel, and those didn't help much. So he didn't say that, but it's true. And somebody yells, my Lord Emperor, the Koloss are sighted. And Fatrin's like, dang it, they already call him first. And so the Koloss get there, and they start setting up camp. And Ellen's like, oh, this is good. Get ready for an assault. And Fatrin's like, wait, what? You want us to take our, 1,000 dudes to attack the 10,000 Koloss? He's like, yeah. Before they, get all blood furious and stuff, we can kill a bunch of them. Which, that's just not a plan that I would have ever thought of, to go and attack them first, but with a smaller group. But, he has experience now, so...
Well, generally the solution to dealing with Koloss is to run like hell in the opposite direction.
Right?
It's much like with the Inquisitors. It's just the solution is run away. So running at them is probably everyone's just like, are you fucking mad?
That is kind of the reaction, and yet they do it. The chapter ends with like Ellen leading this charge of people running out of the gates and towards the Koloss.
Yeah, and in the back of my mind, which we find out why later, but in the back of my mind, this whole chapter, I'm like, when they're talking about having to fight Koloss, and Ellen shows up and he's like, yeah, we're gonna fight him. I'm like, why doesn't he just control them? But we find out why.
Yeah, see, you got your answer real fast this time. And then we get another epigraph, which is already a little bit like info dumpy, but not quite as it's like holding the power did strange things to my mind. In just a few moments, I became familiar with it, and yet the knowledge was different from experience or ability. I knew how to move a planet in the sky, yet I did not know where to place it so that it wouldn't be too close to the sun or too far. So that's possibly a level beyond what we have seen or expected from the power before now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even creating like this new species is one thing, and making like mountains, moving a planet is kind of like another whole level there.
Yeah, that's like Thanos with the gauntlet level shit right there.
Yeah. So if this person is the hero of ages, we have underestimated the power up to this point, I think. And then we get the TenSoon chapter, and I bet everyone was excited. It feels like forever since we've seen TenSoon.
I was so happy when I saw that name.
He's in darkness. We find out that he is of the third generation, which was old even for a Kandra.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess, I don't know how they count their generations, but let's just say they count it by 100 years. So he would have been like 300 years after the creation of the Kandras when he was born, or 200 something years, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So if the Kandra were created right away when the Lord Ruler got this power at the well, that would make him about 700 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an old dog. Well, he's not a dog right now. But,
no, he's a goop. It's an old goop.
But he's so experienced that he can create sensory organs intuitively without a model to copy. So he doesn't have any bones right now. And apparently most organs kind of need bones to work real well. Without a skeleton, eyes get crushed.
I thought that was a really cool little detail. It's like, I mean, I could create eyes, but they're just going to break again.
That probably wouldn't feel good either.
Nope.
No.
So his body was a little more than a grouping of translucent muscles, like a mass of snails or slugs.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty gross.
It just keeps getting worse.
Sort of made me think of like the hunters in Halo.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, if people aren't familiar with like the lore of Halo, it's like hunters are actually a bunch of tiny aliens that wrap themselves around each other and move as a group, and they're just like kind of a goopy.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's also the same alien. Yeah, that's like also the same aliens that like run a lot of their ship systems. They also like are the thing that is a scarab. Like a scarab is basically just a giant hunter alien.
Oh, is it really? I didn't know that.
Huh.
Yep.
Wow.
I assume that's like novel information. I've never read any of the novels.
Yes.
I actually read that in the booklet that came with the game disc of the very first Halo. Back when games had booklets.
Yeah,
Once upon a time.
Yeah, no, they talk about like they use in the novels they talk a lot about how they use those aliens to like repair ships, to like help power ships or help them run more smoothly. It's like they kind of work in conjunction with the Engineer Covenant aliens and stuff to do that kind of thing.
That's cool. It's not as gross as what we're reading now, but so that's a plus right there. Because the next paragraph is about how he has a sense of taste, and all that he can taste is the excrement on the sides of the chamber.
Ew.
Yeah. So.
Which like he doesn't like he doesn't really have a form. Like what's he excreting out of?
This is a good question.
Some people will probably say it's a bad question.
Even single cell organisms can like take in like nourishment and put out something, so I'm sure that there's a way to work it. He's in a cell that is a pit covered with a grate. His captors dump food in from the top and then periodically pour water down to hydrate him and wash the excrement through a small hole at the bottom. And then
sounds delicious.
Yeah, right. We get some interesting tidbits about Kandra and the kind of stuff that they how they work. Most people would have gone mad, but he had the blessing of presence, so his mind would not give up easily.
Yeah. Here we go with the vague capital letter thing that I'm like, okay, well that's a thing, but obviously I'm not going to get an explanation yet. So there's not a Harry Potter to be like, ooh, what's that new word I just heard? Because that's what Harry does all the time. He usually waits till after. He's like, hey, by the way, can you guys explain what they just said? Because I don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's like,
guys,
what's
I
a
didn't grow
parcel
up in
dump?
this world.
He's like, I don't know. Or he's like, he called Hermione something. I knew it was bad because everybody kind of got mad, but I don't know what he said.
Oh, right, yeah, when they go to Hagrid's hut. He's like, yeah, it was a thing. I don't know. What was up with that anyway? Yeah, we don't find anything else out about this blessing of presence, but we do get told about the first generation and the first contract, also all capital letters. And
like even the Cantor Society has their their elderly generation who controls everything, and it's like, guys, fuck off and let the younger guys take over.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it's like a gerontocracy or whatever, where the oldest people are just like, they get to be in charge because they're the oldest. They're the first ones.
They're supposedly the wisest, I guess. But I bet none of them can create organs on the fly like my boy TenSoon.
Yeah, right.
But we find out that he came home, back to the Condor homeland after the last book, and admitted everything that he did about how he went against the will of his master to help someone else, ending in his master's death. And usually the punishment for breaking contract was death. But he did even worse than that. He testified to the second generation in closed conference that he'd revealed their secret. He'd betrayed his people's secret, is what it says. We know what he told Vince, so it's not like that's a mystery. But they can't execute me, not until they find out who I told. So apparently that's the part that he has not admitted yet.
Yeah. This whole scene is like very reminiscent, as we were talking about Halo. It's almost like it makes me think of like an arbiter thing, which maybe they are going to repurpose him to do their bidding. I don't know, but it's very like, you have brought shame upon us. You know, the ultimate punishment is for you to be imprisoned or whatever. And they're like, we're going to kill you. Oh, but by the way, we're going to make you do our will first. You're going to die doing our will, so, you know, it's whatever. But then they do try to kill him quietly, so I guess it is a little different.
Right? They kind of try to execute him here.
Yeah. I got this sort of does lend a bit of credence. I remember I threw out at one point, she's like, Vin is going to have an army of angry blob monsters coming for her.
Yep.
Because, I mean, yeah, they have the contract of Kandra don't kill humans, but they might say, well, you know, we have to ignore that because she knows our secret. She's too dangerous to be allowed to live.
Yeah,
maybe.
But do they want to go up against the person that killed their supposed creator?
Another good question.
I mean, alternatively, they could just all turn themselves into humans and it's like, all right, how much money we got? Let's just pay an assassin and just pretend we're actually people asking them to kill her. Yeah,
I wonder if that works. If you can pay somebody else, like, well, we're not killing her. We didn't break our contract thing.
He thought we were people. That's his mistake.
We really haven't, even at the end of the chapter, we haven't really met any other Kandra, so we really don't know kind of what their attitudes are like. The only other one we've ever met was, what's his name?
The one he pretended to be.
Thank you, yeah. And him we never kind of met as a Kandra. He was always like Lord Renu. Or for a little while Vin's like assistant, kind of a jerk. But anyway, somebody comes and he can feel the vibrations. It says he doesn't have ears, but he can feel the vibrations. And he thinks they're here to feed him. But that is not what happens. They reach hooks in and pull him out. And then it says he could taste it.
Pretty unpleasant.
Like,
oh, yeah. Sorry.
It says he could taste it in the air, acid. So now we know how you go about killing a blob monster. Probably could have guessed that, honestly.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's never going to be good.
No, right?
So it's like you just give it a little kiss and it shrivels up, guys. Now.
Sort of begs the question then, like, so he killed Orosur and we weren't sure how, and he said he ate Orosur. Yeah. Did he kill him by eating him? Did his, I don't want to say stomach, but like his internal acids dissolve Orosur? Is that how he killed him?
It's a good question. I mean, it seems like the most logical way. You got to feel like it's unlikely that he had a bucket of acid with him to like kill him.
I was about to say, it's like he's just carrying this bucket through the city.
They're like, what is that in that bucket, sir? Nothing. Holy water.
Kelsier water.
We don't know how he got into the city. Like, we don't know what form he was in. So maybe he did have a bucket. You never know. Maybe you don't need a lot of acid. Maybe you just need a little bit of acid.
And he thinks that, no, they can't kill him. The first contract, the law of our people, and then he gets a skull, and he realizes that, so apparently the law says that he gets a chance to speak before he's executed. But what they're trying to do is follow the form of that rule by giving him a skull, but then also pour acid on him and kill him before he has time to actually do it.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, here's your skull so you can speak. Oh, we're gonna kill you now.
But they didn't count on him being fucking top-notch Khandra, where he's like, most of them take hours.
He's like, look, we gave him the skull. Like, what do you want us to do?
To work. So I'm really good.
So it says that all of the second generation and most of the third had long ago retired from service and basically just lived in the homeland. Not many had been working as long as TenSoon had. So he's better than most of them. And he manages to put together enough muscles and a tongue so that he can say one word before they kill him with the acid. And he says judgment.
Yep. Which I guess means he gets a trial.
That is kind of, yeah, I mean, it's a trial would be public is what he thinks. Because they start telling him, it's like, no, stupid, just take death so that you can't hurt us anymore. The first generation has granted you this chance to die because of your extra years of service. And he's like, maybe that would be better. Like, a trial is going to be public. Everyone would find out, not just that he was a contract breaker, because I guess everyone would know that if they found out he was executed, but that he was way worse than that. And apparently, the punishment for that is worse than execution. They just put you in one of those pits, and they leave you there forever until ever you go insane.
Sure.
So that's nice.
Yeah, but he's like, screw it, just judgment.
Yep.
Very
That's the end of the chapter.
Contract style. It's like sanctuary.
It's not a very long TenSoon chapter. We get a lot of information, and it's kind of sad. My
immediate thought when I got to the end of this chapter was, I cannot fucking wait to see how they do that scene in a movie or TV show visual format.
That would
showing
be really
all
hard.
the emotions on this massive muscle.
I don't know how you could do that. That's a really good point.
It's just a bowl of Jello, and then they just give it a voice and voiceover. It's fine.
There's gonna be a lot of voiceover. Like, I couldn't believe that I didn't have a skull. Okay, and then our last epigraph for today. Just thinking about this power, and it's like it's so overwhelming that it would take millennia to understand. And my ignorance was extremely dangerous because, like a child that's suddenly given awesome strength, I could have pushed too hard and left the world a broken toy I could never repair. Yeah, dumping that much power on somebody who doesn't know how to use it, that's not the best idea.
Nope.
And we cut back to Elend. And he's kind of introspective at first, where it's like, I used to just be a professional socialite, and I was gonna grow up and be a politician. And then it gets a quote from Tindwyl about, I doubt you'll ever be the type of leader who can lead a charge against the enemy. And it's like, she'd be eating her words now. She didn't expect him to be a Mistborn either, though. So,
Yep.
That gives you an edge. And they actually, as he's encouraging them, they managed to kill a bunch of Koloss. Because the Koloss did not, like, apparently the Koloss see them run all the way from the wall to their camp, and they're just like, what's that about?
Yeah. They kill, like 700, it says, I think?
Yeah, I'm not quite to that part of it yet, but yeah, it's like hundreds. Which is that's a really good job.
Yeah.
And they're just surprised, and they get to take a bunch of them out, while the others kind of whip themselves into a frenzy. His white uniform gets stained with red Koloss blood. It must be really hard keeping that white uniform white with all the fighting, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's got several.
Yeah, she gave him several in the first place, so.
Yeah. It makes me think of, like, any joke at a cartoon show where it's like, in cartoons, the characters always wear the same outfits, but every once in a while the animators or the writers will make a joke. It's like they open their closet and it's full of all
just all the same one.
Yeah, just a ton of outfits that are exactly the same.
It says they've managed to take down several hundred Koloss, so I guess it doesn't give us exact.
That's still quite a significant.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider that there's 10,000 of them, it doesn't seem like that much, but for a bunch of humans attacking Koloss, it's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah.
And then we just get into the fight. Koloss and the human line of 1,000 or so soldiers trying to fight this giant army of Koloss. And Elend is trying to push on their emotions and grab them, and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, Fatron's like, "We're doomed. Game over, man. Game over."
Then the music kicks in, and the horseshoes come flying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You get like a bad to the bone riff or something.
Yeah, it would be like, welcome to the jungle. She just like drops in, you know.
It's like they see this thing coming, and Fatron's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "That's the first of those armies I promised you."
Yep, and also my wife, but you don't need to know that right now.
It might have been
Yeah,
more
not
polite
relevant.
to call her his wife rather than an army, but whatever. I know, Jaymee, you're the only wife in the group. Which one would you prefer to be referred to as?
I mean, like in Vin's case, she's pretty badass, but
That's true.
yeah. I think Vin would be okay, but yeah, I mean, if someone had referred to me as an army, I'd probably be like, excuse me?
You're right. Vince
it
seems
also-
like she'd be okay with it.
I guess it also depends on the context. It's not like he's introducing her at dinner.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
My army Vin.
He's like, this is my army, Vin. Army, meet General Tao. He has really good chicken.
I can't eat General Tso's chicken anymore. It's sad. I got real sick after eating it one time.
Oh, that sucks.
It was the night that Watchmen came out, because I had that for
Oh,
dinner. I
yeah.
went to the midnight showing of Watchmen, and I had to leave in the middle of the showing to run to the theater bathroom and throw up.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. But
Fun
that
time.
there were other circumstances that caused you to throw up.
Oh, no, yeah. But it was just, that was what I'd eaten right before then. So now it's just like, it wasn't the food's fault. It was the fact that I'd taken the police academy entrance exam, the physical portion, earlier that day, and was not in any way prepared for it. Passed it, mind you, but was not prepared for the... Oh, gosh.
Yep.
Fun.
And listeners, in case you're wondering, he is not a police officer, so
No.
please don't ask.
Yeah, didn't end up taking that job, partly because that entrance exam, like, wiped me out. And they all saw that, and then I had them, like, a bunch of the training officers come by and make sarcastic comments at me afterward. I'm like, yeah, I don't know that this is necessarily where I want to be.
Wow. Yep.
Anyway, I was going to touch on, actually, and I kind of forgot to in the last chapter, that Brandon in the annotations talking about writing from the Khandra viewpoint. And he's like, I knew that this book had to have a Khandra viewpoint in it. They just have this unique perspective on everything. And I wanted to give people more of like this culture and this mindset. And he also says that he wrote most of TenSoon's stuff in one chunk and then like figured out where various chapters would fit in kind of later on. And so this first chapter, he really wasn't sure for the longest time when he was going to bring TenSoon into the story, and eventually decided that it had to be really early to be the most compelling.
That's cool.
He also says that TenSoon chapters tended to be the favorite of his alpha readers, so we got that going for us, I guess. But back to the battle. He says that this is where, as he does in each book, he had to kind of reintroduce allomancy and what it does, and he feels that kind of slows things down and makes this fight a tad dry, that he has to explain some of these things.
I agree that he had to do it.
Oh, okay.
It's a new book. I know it's a trilogy and it's a third one, and you should have read the other two definitely before starting this one, but you've got to have a little bit of recap,
Yeah.
like, on this stuff, because people are going to be confused, you know?
Yeah. That's
It's not us who are reading them back to back, right? It's like when he originally wrote them, they're at least a year, maybe 2 years apart.
I think it was a year apart. And I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as like the Dresden Files, where he reintroduces every character with like the same descriptions in all of the early books. And it's like, yes, I know that Murphy is like 5'0" and blonde hair and looks like your cousin or whatever. I love those
Like Harry
books. but he
Potter
really
that
doesn't.
always explains how his parents died.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I would just throw that in there. They stopped doing that. I think like the fifth book is probably it may have been the sixth book is the first one where they kind of don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the sixth book, we get like memories of his mom. So it's kind of not even.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, sorry. Vin comes in, super badass, just starts taking out dudes. Well, dudes, Koloss. I like this bit where she shoots 15 feet into the air as a Koloss swings at her, and he accidentally cuts the head off the Koloss next to him instead of hitting her, and doesn't care in any way.
Yeah. I do like that he explains several times. It's like, yeah, these Koloss just kept being confused because they're like, this shouldn't happen. How does this girl who's like 5 feet jump 15 feet in the air and kill our like best dude? Like, I don't get it.
And yet it drew them to her. This confusing thing that they were watching. She's 20 now, it mentions, so that gives us a solid.
Yeah, true.
I think she turned 17 in the middle of the first books, so.
I think so.
And again, it reminds me of Harry Potter. It's like when the de-gnoming starts, all the gnomes run up to see what's happening.
De-colossing.
And I won't hit every bit, but it's just, there's a lot of descriptions of Vin killing Koloss, and she's just awesome. I love Vin. I never get enough of Vin.
Like in some action scenes, you can sort of get a bit, okay, we get it, shit's going down, move on, get on with it. I felt that way a little bit in the Battle of Luthadel last book, but in this fight scene, I spent the entire thing just going, this is fascinating. Tell me more.
Yeah, it's good. It's like it reminds me of like when Thor shows up in Endgame. It's just like or sorry, not Endgame, Infinity War. He's got the axe. You know, he just comes in, axe blazing, and takes out a bunch of dudes.
Lightning going.
Pretty awesome. Yep.
And then he's like, Tree, this is Captain America. I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers. All right, I love that bit.
Vin, this is my friend Fatrin. Fatrin, this is my wife. I am Fatrin. I'm the army.
We have a
Vin's like, can I call you Fats? Everybody does.
I feel like that's more of a lift thing, but no, you guys, never mind. We're not there yet. What? So, let's see. I like that we get some. I mean, we kind of jump from Ellen's perspective right into Vin's head, which is almost a little bit jarring in the way that it moves. But we get some interesting. Like, she feels like she's come to peace with her place in all of this. She's Ellen's tool to help him, and it even has like she'd seen Ellen die and had let it happen intentionally, and so now it's like he's still alive and every breath is unexpected and perhaps undeserved, but she's no longer terrified that she's going to lose him.
I thought this was a really good sort of change of mindset for Vin. It's not so much that she's just being used or anything. I think she's still happy with their relationship, but she's just more at ease now. It's like her sole purpose isn't just to protect Ellen. You know, we've got a job to do, which is fine. And also he is perfectly capable of looking after himself. I don't have to watch over him every second. So it's nice that she's actually got a little bit of peace, I think.
Yeah, and it's hard to say whether she would have gotten that if he hadn't become like a Mistborn also, but he did, and so she's kind of in a better mindset here than we've seen her like ever, I think, at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it was important for her to feel that way before or right as he became a Mistborn, because in the last book we got a lot of, well, if he doesn't need me, what am I here for? If he doesn't need me to protect him. So now he can protect himself, so it's good that she's feeling secure, because otherwise we'd probably still have that. Plus, you know, people grow. She's 20. She's not a teenager anymore. You know, she's probably matured a little bit, like, emotionally.
I think Dak mentioned last time that he was afraid with Ellen being in Mistborn and stuff, we might backslide some into her being like, well, now he doesn't need me again. And so I think it's really nice that that's not what is happening, at least not yet. I guess it could happen at some point in this book.
Yeah.
We had so much of that in the last book, though. I really hope we don't go back there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, I hope we don't. I was just worried that we might. But from this little snippet at least, like, looks good.
And yeah, she's chopping Koloss up. She's kicking them in the head and breaking their heads, doing all the Vin stuff. But then, let's see, like the Koloss freeze. They're so surprised that she killed this like 13-foot tall one that she's like, that thing's so big it shouldn't be alive. It should have died long ago. From its heart should have given out.
Which that raised a red flag. I'm like, oh god, like are the Koloss living longer? Like is Ruin and his Inquisitor buddies experimenting on them to make them live longer? Like that really concerned me.
Yeah, it's only been a year though, so I guess it'd be hard to tell at this point if that was the case. Although we did get this one possible example. But she's like, everyone thinks that they don't feel fear, but they do. They just can't act on it. It does, however, weaken them. And seeing her take out so many of them and seeing Ellen's little group of humans take out so many of them and keep fighting is instilling some of this fear. And that's what gives her enough room to break in and start taking control of them. And so she grabs one, has it kill some of its friends, it gets killed, grabs like two more, and starts gradually turning the Koloss army against itself.
Yeah, and it's I like also how she said, it's like normally me killing one of those, they would just go ahead and seeing that they would just go ahead and be docile, but
Mm.
because of the external force that's controlling them, that's not going to happen.
Yep. Something else is in the game with them now. It's not like the ones back in Luthadel that were just on their own doing stuff. There's something already controlling these. And they can only draw it out by starting to take over its army. And that finally gives the thing a reason to show itself. And that's when they see something flying through the air. And it is a bald, face-tattooed, spikes through the eyes, Steel Inquisitor.
So, did he also come in on horseshoes?
Let's see. What does it say? It says a speck
was
in the
unclear.
air, shooting towards her, resolved into a figure with black robes, bounding over
Pushing
the
down
army
on
by
Koloss
pushing down on
swords.
Koloss swords. But of course, it couldn't have done that all the way here because there's not a line of Koloss all the way here. It doesn't
Right.
say how he shows up actually.
But
Yeah,
didn't
he's
they
just
say that it
flying
must
through
have
the
been
air.
close by?
Yeah.
And
Vin managed to take control of one of the Koloss because it had gotten too far away from whatever force was controlling it or something like that. So presumably the Inquisitor was close enough to the army to begin with.
So yeah, maybe it just used some coins if it was, if it didn't have that long to travel like Vin did with the horseshoes. Interesting.
Yeah, it makes me think of I'm reading through the Thrawn books right now, and the Jedi, like the Dark Jedi Master, it's like controlling the Empire armies from like light years away. I'm just like, whoa, that's intense. It's kind of like I'm wondering how far away can he be and still control them.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring up Star Wars because my thought when the Inquisitor landed in the fight, even though I knew it was coming, I sort of had the music from Rogue One where Darth Vader just pops out of the shadows with his lightsaber playing in my head.
Ooh, that's a badass moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this is apparently what they've been trying to do, is draw this guy out. And Vin starts burning Electrum, which Ellen has called the poor man's adium, because it doesn't help you in battle, but it cancels out adium because it shows you your future instead of other people's future and other things.
Yeah. Which I feel like isn't exactly the opposite of gold, but yeah.
Well, and Brandon has, I was going to read this section of the annotations because it's interesting, I think. But I just may be more into allomancy than your average person. But he says, so I held off on using this metal, Electrum, because while I knew what it had to do, I also knew that it would make adium far less important. The way I built allomancy, there's a logic to the framework. Adium shows other people's futures. Gold shows you your own past. Each group of metals has internal and external power. Therefore, one of the two alloys, either adiums or golds, had to show other people's pasts. The 11th metal from Book 1, an alloy of adium. The final metal of that group, then, had to show you your own future. I wanted this to be an alloy of adium, but the problem was that it couldn't be. There's always a pushing metal and a pulling metal to each set, and the pull always comes first. The push is always the alloy. So two external metals that do things to other people have to be grouped together, and the two internal metals that do things to you have to be grouped together. That means adium and gold are both pulling metals. The ones that do things to you both had to be related to gold, and both the metals that do things to other people had to be related to adium. Therefore, even though initial logic makes it seem that an alloy of adium should be one that shows you your own future, the way the magic is actually arranged means that it has to show you other people's pasts. And then there's an editor's note that says, careful readers may intuit something else about this that Brandon is holding back.
Just dangle that carrot.
Yeah.
I could not put that out to y'all, but unless you're seriously into allomancy, what they're referring to is kind of hard to pick up on.
I don't know. Maybe it's something about burning like Electrum and adium at the same time, or something.
Maybe.
Let's see. So back to the fight. Vin is fighting this Inquisitor. It's got axes. She's got a big Koloss sword. Like, she didn't need to bring any weapons because she just takes their weapons and uses them.
Sure.
She deliberately lured him out by killing and controlling his Koloss and forcing him to reveal himself. Oh, but she did bring her glass daggers because she's got the glass daggers, so that because the Inquisitor can push her on the sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes out and she's like, "You activated my trap card. Swords of revealing light."
And she goes for the spike in his back, the one that Marsh told everyone was you pull out the linchpin spike and they drop.
Which Marsh was trying to do to himself, and it's like, can't
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, he doesn't even have enough control to reach around the back of him and grab something on his own. It's really sad.
Ugh.
But when she gets there, it turns out this Inquisitor has a metal shield covering itself, like a form-fitting breastplate, it says, covering its back. Something like a sleek turtle's shell. So they've made it hard to get to that spike, which is pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's if people know your weakness naturally, you got to do something to protect it, right?
Yeah.
I would say protect it even if people don't know it, just in the off chance someone accidentally gets it.
Maybe they should invest in some neck armor. Just saying.
They keep getting their heads chopped off.
Well, this one doesn't so much get it chopped off as just pulped.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong.
It's like, I remember there was a one of the Punisher Max comics a while, like, I can't even remember which one. I just remember the only thing from this issue I remember, because I read it years and years ago, was he got shot by a stray shotgun blast or something, and his internal monologue just goes, 2 ribs are gone. Not broken, gone.
Oh, that's nice. That sounds like the kind of thing a Conjure would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's fighting the guy, and they almost take him, because Ellen shows up and surprises him from behind with a handful of coins. But it's not quite enough to kill him, at least. Not right then. But what he does do is he's getting ready to jump away. He's like, okay, 2 is too many. I'm going to take off. And we find out that... Vin notes that Ellen's physical allomancy still lacks polish.
He mentioned that himself as well.
Yeah. I just like that she's critiquing him. She's like... Because she's got to be the one training him, right? So...
Oh, surely. You know, that's a fun little date night, throwing coins at each other.
But we also find out that Elend is stronger than your average Allomancer, and the Inquisitor and him
Did you have to say that in a way that makes it sound like a Yogi Bear?
Well,
exactly.
You don't know how hard it was
Bear.
for me in my head not to go even further than that, because as soon as I started saying it, that was the only thing in my head, was the Yogi Bear thing.
Stronger than the average Allomancer, eh, boo-boo?
Hey, Vin!
I gotta show the kids some old Hanna-Barbera cartoons at some point.
Watch the one where Yogi like gets the movie that I always really liked watching was the one where he and Boo Boo like get stuck on a train and they go far away. I
don't remember that one at all.
Oh, it's a good one.
Okay, sorry, I lost my spot here. She's just impressed. He's so powerful. Ooh, so hot.
Okay. I feel like you're putting that on her. I don't feel like that's what she says.
No, it's not at all. But, they're married. She's thinking that. It's fine.
Sure.
The fight goes on between Ellen, Inquisitor, and Vin for a little bit. She loses her knives. He loses his axes. Ellen gets one of the axes. But then the Inquisitor moves with a sudden jolt of speed. Its form a blur. And Vin's really like, wait, what? Because not even pewter can make you move that fast. Not even with, like, Duralumin. And in its hand is a metal spike. And he's going right for Ellen with the spike. And Vin is too far away to help, but fortunately, there is a Koloss who is not. And smacks the Inquisitor directly in the face with its big-ass sword, crushing its head completely.
Your head explode.
And that's when Ellen uses Duralumin and Brass and takes control of all the Koloss at once.
Yep. And then he shouts, Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. I don't know why, but he does.
We were sitting around the other day, and something came on about Ben Affleck. And my wife really hates him as Batman. And so she's just like, such a bad choice for Batman. I was like, but he was the bomb in Phantoms. And she just looks at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
She doesn't know. She doesn't know about Phantoms.
I've never seen Phantoms. I just know Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, me too. I've also never watched Phantoms.
No, me either. So
we can neither confirm nor deny if he was in fact the bomb.
Nope, can't do it.
Yeah.
And so there's a note here in the annotations about the Inquisitor and his speed. And I don't know if you guys picked up on or where that came from. Kind of assuming you might have.
Oh, yeah, yep. So it's like, well, that's clearly going to be important.
So it says what the Inquisitor does here at the end is very important. If you've read book 2 recently, which we did, you may recognize this as what Sayes did when he tapped speed at the end of that book. The Inquisitors are gaining ferrochemical powers, which makes them very, very dangerous. Mixing ferrochemy and allomancy is what made the Lord Ruler so formidable. Fortunately, it took him a long time to learn how to mix the powers correctly, and the Inquisitors haven't had that time to practice.
Yeah, I didn't know
Well, I
that
mean-
we were going to read that annotation, but that is what I assumed it was based on what happens in the prologue and what he does here. Because, I mean, if it's a faster speed than Allomancy can make, it's like, okay, well, it's the only other power we know of that can do things that Allomancy can't, that it enhance your skills, or is Verachemy. So I kind of figured that's what it was.
Yeah.
Me too.
I assumed that you guys had probably figured that out, which is why I was like, we can go ahead and read that annotation. It's not really a spoiler since I'm pretty sure people get an idea of what's happening at this point. But that is the end of what we read for this week. The next time, what I was in the middle of saying was the next annotation is one of those that's kind of like a very interesting info dump. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys say when we get there.
Do you mean epigraph?
Epigraph. I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you. I'm dumb. In the
No,
meantime.
that's fine.
Predicments. What does anyone have to predict now that we've seen the beginning of this book, what we're going to be running into?
Strap in, because I've got a real volcano one for you this week.
Yay!
So, throughout this book, there is rapidly, that's entirely the wrong word. I'm such an idiot. There is consistently brought up the fact that Ellen's Allomancy is way stronger than anyone expected. And the running theory is it's because he had the power granted to him in the same way the first Allomancers did, rather than inheriting it genetically, with the little sphere down in the well. So I got to thinking about that and thought, why is he so strong? Because Vin is commenting on how strong he is. But then you think about Vin also is way stronger than anyone expected. They've gone on at length about that. She's done things no Allomancer should have been able to do in the previous books, including tapping into the mists and everything else.
Yep.
So I was thinking about Vin's Allomancy, and that made me go back to the first book where she talks about what happened to her as a child, wherein she came home and like her mum had gone crazy, baby sister was dead, and mum was worshipping Vin as a god. So I'm wondering if somehow Vin's mother got a hold of one of those orbs somehow, like the original Allomantic power-granting orbs, and fed it to Vin as a child and was worshipping her as like, now you will be the strongest person on this planet for whatever reason. I don't know how the hell she got it or what she did, but I was like, I wonder if that's how Vin actually got her Allomancy power, because we don't think her mum was had any mist powers, and I'm pretty sure Tavidian didn't either. So did it just skip a few generations, or was something else going on?
That is very interesting, actually. I like this. I like this theory. It totally explains the whole worshipping as a goddess. I mean, doesn't explain why she murdered her sister or anything, but she was crazy, so maybe everything doesn't need to be explained in that sense.
No, but maybe, you know, if it's a traumatic event, maybe mum killed baby sister to traumatize Vin and make her snap and awaken her powers.
Yeah. I want you to do me a favor and remember this, not for next week, but for the episode after that, because when we get to chapter 10, I'm going to reveal a fun behind the scenes sort of fact that will go right along with this and give your theory more weight. But we're a couple weeks away from
Filing away. But yeah, that's my big crazy theory for this chapter. The only other things I've got are the small things. Just I assume that the Inquisitors, you know, since they've returned, they've taken all the Koloss that were around Luthadel at the end of book 2. Because I mean, they've got to have gone somewhere, right?
Yep.
And just general stuff. Like, I believe that TenSoon is going to try and maybe lead sort of something about the Kandra changing their ways, because he's going to try and help Vin as much as possible. I think he really wants to do right by her. And I think Marsh is going to be a much more major character in this book from that prologue. He's going to have his own character arc. Whether or not we actually see inside his head again, I don't know, but he's going to be of vital importance throughout this book. I can't wait to see him again.
I feel like it might be hard to have an arc when you can't actually do anything of your own volition, but that's not saying that he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Fair.
I have a few things as well. Like I said, there were a lot of little delicious nuggets here, and I actually like Dak's theory a lot. I might build on that a little bit. So the first thing is Ruins controlling Marsh, right? I already kind of talked about that, so I'm doing this in order the way I wrote them. So we can effectively think, or at least I can effectively think, that if he's being controlled and he wants to die but he can't, that I think Dak may be right. There may be some kind of arc for Marsh wherein he somehow finds the power to kind of overcome the control that he's under. So Elend, the next part is Elend, since he arrived, and they talk about how his allomancy is stronger. Yeah, definitely. I think these beads, I think they describe it in the second book as beads of metal. These beads of metal, I would say they have to be the original source of how humanity, I guess you call it, got allomancy. You know, they found these beads, or they got them somehow, because they do talk about it in the second book. I think the Khandra talks, I think TenSoon talks about how the original allomancers were stronger.
Yep.
And so I guess that when you get it through blood, it slowly kind of just loses its power through the generations.
It's being diluted.
Right, it's being diluted, as opposed to getting the power directly from the bead of metal.
Well, yeah, and especially if the bead gives you like Mistborn ability,
right?
You can see it being diluted just in the fact that now most people just get one.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, those beads of metal. I like Dak's theory that maybe somehow Vin's mother got a hold of one of these beads. I mean, if her dad really is the High Obligator, maybe he had relics from, you know, his ancestors, and maybe one of them happened to be this. Yeah, maybe one of them happened to be this bead of metal. To build on that even further, I often wondered if maybe Vin's mother was secretly a terrace woman in disguise, like a keeper, and so she had knowledge of something that allowed her to kind of put things together to know that would give her daughter power. I don't know. That's just the theory I'm putting out there, that maybe her mother was a terrace woman, because in the first book, is it the first? I think it's. I can't remember if it's the first or second book that Vin swallows some ferrochemical metal. And
that's the first one.
Yeah, but it says metal, right? And she can't tap into it. But then she never tests it out again. She never tries to fill a metal, because Sayes never explains how that process works to her. So I'm almost wondering if she also knows ferrochem, or she also has the potential to use ferrochemy. She just doesn't know that because she's never tried it.
That would be a hell of a thing. To not know.
Cool. Right. Yeah, because Sayes was being very hush-hush in the first book about how ferrochemy worked. So he gave her the metal to swallow, but really it's like it didn't matter, because she wouldn't have been able to use it anyway, because it's not hers. So there's that little tidbit that could tie in with Dak's theory. Based on Jaymee's theory last book and what I've read in these epigraphs, the way they are written seems like they're written by Sayes to me. So
Absolutely.
And so I'm just going to go ahead and say Jaymee's theory was 100% right, and that Sayes is the hero of ages, or at least at the beginning of his epigraphs, he thinks he is. He says, "I am unfortunately the hero of ages," because who would say it like that? Nobody else would say it like that. Sayes is the only guy who'd be like, I guess I'm the hero. Great.
I guess that depends on the circumstances of
sure.
becoming the hero. Maybe it really sucks
maybe it was
when you find out.
Breeze is the hero, and he's like, oh, I guess I'm the hero.
I have to do work now.
Yeah. No, but the way he talks about it, it's like the way he talks, the way he writes. It's like, this knowledge is different from experience or even the ability to use that power. I know how to move a planet in the sky, yet I didn't know where to place it. Like, he is thinking these things out, and I feel like Sayes is the only character we know that thinks things out like this. So pretty much from that second epigraph, I'm like, this sounds like Sayes for sure. So that's my theory on who the hero of ages is. I think Jaymee did an awesome job putting that theory together last book, and I think these epigraphs just help confirm that.
So
go ahead.
I want to share something with you guys before we go further, but it's along these same lines. Somewhere in the first third of this book or so, I got to an epigraph, and for maybe the only time in this entire trilogy, I stopped and I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can figure this out. I want to know who this person is writing these epigraphs. I feel like they're trying to make it something that I could figure out. I'm going to stop and think about this. And so I stopped reading for like I said, maybe the only time. And I went back and I looked through all the epigraphs and I was like, what does this? And finally I came to the conclusion that because of the diction, the words that were used and the way that they were used, that it narrowed it down to two characters for me. I'm like, this is Elend or it's Sayes, because they're the only ones who know even like to form sentences in this way and to use some of the words that the way that they're being used. And then I thought, Well, I don't know, but for maybe like getting all this crazy magical power of the Hero of Ages changes your mind enough that you're looking at and saying things differently. So maybe I'm totally out of my mind to just assume that I can tell based on the way that they're saying this who it is. And then within a chapter of reading more, I'd completely forgotten that I ever stopped and thought about that. And so when I got to the end, I didn't even have a theory in my brain about who the Hero of Ages might be. Or I say when I got to the end. When I get to the point where it's revealed who that is, which I won't actually say where that is, but I'd completely forgotten that I ever even thought about it. So obviously not tell you whether I was right or wrong, but it's just this was the one thing that I stopped and theorized about when I first read the books.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, again, we've talked about this before. I think because of the way that we are taking the time to dissect everything with this podcast, I feel pretty comfortable saying that Jaymee's theory was right, and the way that we've read this, like, I think it is Sazed. I don't think it's, I don't know. I don't see Ellen even writing this way, so I don't know that I don't know. I feel like it would be Ellen, but a lot of the things Jaymee said in the when she theorized originally just kind of fit, and then this kind of, to me, these epigraphs fit in the style that they're written, that it would be Sazed. So there's that with the epigraphs. And then TenSoon, I'm kind of at a loss for what's going to happen with him. I don't really know. I'm kind of looking forward to not trying to think too hard about that and just kind of letting it happen, because that's kind of the story on the periphery right now that I'm sure will become very relevant. But for right now, I got a taste, and that was satisfying. So I don't need to know everything about that right now. So absolutely, Ellen's a stronger Allomancer because of the way he was given the Allomantic powers, for sure. We talked about I wrote this down. I didn't know if we were going to talk about it. I talked about that Inquisitor definitely being a ferochemist, but here's the theory on how I think that works. So I don't think this guy was originally a Terraceman, but at the beginning of the prologue, he's shoving spikes through a Terraceman. He specifically mentions that it's a Terraceman into the Inquisitor underneath. So something with the spikes going through the blood instills the power of ferochemy into the Inquisitor, which is why I wondered if to make an Inquisitor, because we only see one body there, right, in the prologue. So this guy, maybe he was already an Inquisitor, and Marsh is just giving him ferochemical powers. Because because I remember a long time ago we said, well, maybe they have to use so many bodies because they have to get a misting of each version and put the spikes through, or somehow use that person to put the power into the Inquisitors to give them all the Allomantic powers. So you could use one Mistborn, but if you had a Mistborn that you could sway, or, well, I guess you'd have to capture them first. That would be really difficult. Whereas you could capture a misting pretty easily. So if you had a bunch of mistings to make one Inquisitor, you really only need one Terraceman to make a ferochemist Inquisitor. So that's my theory on how they're getting ferochemical powers. He's using Terraceman to actually give them that power.
I wonder if, like, he makes a point that it's the brass spike they're shoving through the ferochemist. So I guess that's also the question of what's brass do for... Was brass health for ferochemy?
No, for ferochemy, hold on, I can tell you because there was a chart at the end of the last book, so it's not like that would be a spoiler. Let me look up the ferochemy.
Yeah, I looked at the chart actually for the first time. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Brass stores iron, steel, tin, pewter, zinc, copper, brass. Brass stores warmth.
Oh.
So maybe the warmth of the blood. I don't know, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's my theory on how that process of them actually becoming ferochemists work. Is all you need is the Terraceman, and then somehow to know the art of hematology or whatever it's called.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because we do know, and they were missing for the whole last book, right? And everyone's kind of grumpy that they never actually showed up and did anything. We know that the first thing that they did, apparently, after the Lord Ruler fell, was they went up to the Terrace Dominance, and they either killed or captured all of the ferochemist leaders of
Synod.
Yeah, the Synod.
Yeah.
So maybe they had a reason for that.
Yeah,
well,
maybe
the guy that Marsh was killing in the prologue mentioned that he'd been questioned, and he was like, they would like trying to give them as much information as they could about the Synod. So it's specifically the Synod they want.
Yeah, and I mean maybe the Inquisitors already knew. Maybe they had already figured out that Rashek was a Terraceman and that he had ferochemical and Allomantic powers. And so we all know from the beginning, or from that first book, that the Inquisitors were all about grabbing power.
Yep.
So if they found that out, if they figured it out in some way before the intervention of Ruin, or even with Ruin's intervention, if he really can speak through the spikes at all times, if they figured that out, then that would be a step that they could take. It's like, okay, well, we got to go get this power, this feruchemy power. We got to go, and we'll each be Lord Rulers, basically.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame them for wanting to do that. Who wouldn't want that's some crazy power that dude had. And I think they must have known, because they knew that he went in and like made himself older and younger, because we saw even when he was old, they were like, oh, Lord Ruler, we captured this girl. So they must have known what he was doing, or had an idea at least.
Yeah. May not have known where the extra power came from, though, because Lord Ruler's the one quashing the terrorist people.
True.
He doesn't want anybody to know that they have feruchemy powers.
Okay. Interesting theories. Well, Jaymee, I don't think you've gone yet.
No, not yet. I really like where both Dak and Joe have gone this week. I was thinking something similar about Vin's origin as well. I had thought, and I actually don't know if we brought it up or not, if the earring that Vin had been given as a child, maybe that was storing some ability for her. But and it was the only piece of jewelry that she ever wore. But I think that got destroyed when she was in the well.
She took it. It started burning, and she took it off when she got into the well. I don't think that it was.
But it actually.
Oh, okay.
It actually mentions that she jumps back in and grabs it.
Right. Okay. Forgot that part. Yeah. So maybe her having some feruchemical ability. Maybe she is already storing something, and that does make her stronger. She's tapping into it without even realizing that she's doing it, because there are some things that she's really good at. So yeah, I kind of like that idea that maybe the mother was a terrorist person. And yeah, after reading these epigraphs, I'm really comfortable with my Say's theory as the hero of ages. I sort of thought maybe we were getting a point of view as from Rashek, because I'm trying to figure out, like, if he took on the power but didn't release the power, that would give him the ability to change things like he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's died, the power's gone back into the well, maybe. So I was thinking it could have been his point of view in the past, sort of reflecting on what it was like to have the power and not knowing what to do with it. But then reading through those couple of epigraphs, it all sounded a bit familiar. And then I think it's in the third chapter we read, the first line of it, there's a line and then it says, I think. And I was like, oh, Zazed, it's you. So now I'm pretty happy with that theory. So I'm going to stick with that one for a little while.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But that's all I've got, really. Nothing too new. See what happens in the next few chapters and build some pictures. And yeah.
Okay. Well, for next time, let me bring up my schedule thing here. We're reading 4 chapters, which will be 4, 5, 6, and 7. 6 may actually be the shortest chapter in any of these 3 books.
It's like 2 words, like Ellen wept.
I think there's a chapter in like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that's literally like 1 sentence or something. It's not quite that short, but I think it may be the shortest thing we've ever read, actually. So, anyway.
There's a Warren Ellis book called Crooked Little Vein. The 3rd chapter is literally 2 sentences. He walks into a bar and yells, I'm buying 100 drinks for me. Oh, they beat the shit out of me.
That's awesome. I love that. That reminds me of anybody ever read the Frank Burley novels by John Swartzwelder?
Only because you let me read them.
Ah, that's true. Yeah. They're very short novels by John Swartzwelder, who's written more episodes of The Simpsons than anybody, and they are hilarious and weird.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. It's basically like what if Homer Simpson was a private detective? It's pretty amazing.
Oh my god,
like that. Yeah. That's a very good description. The first one is called The Time Machine Did It. So highly recommend to anybody who wants to laugh a lot. It's so weird because I read books fast because I want to get to the end. I want to find the story. This is the kind of book that's like I read a chapter or 2 and then it's like too much funny coming at you too fast. I have to like stop and come back the next day and read another couple chapters. Yeah,
it's really, I mean, it's like reading a comedy show. It's just like, but in a pleasant way, not in like a scripty kind of way. It's just they're very just pleasant to read.
Anyway, sorry, that's way off track from what we were. But anyway, random book recommendation of the week. So we had, let me double check to see if we had. I don't think we had any No, this email says it's from Guest Services, which is not.
Guest services.
It's junk mail. I just hadn't.
Let's read it. Read it. Let's do it. I'm just kidding.
It says, "Hi, Dinah. If you would like to make an order." Okay, yeah, no, I can't even. It's
don't
like
do it.
Bad English, and I don't know who Dinah is, but anyway, it's not the Sanderlanche, that's for sure.
Dinner doesn't need to make an order. Dinner is the order.
Yeah. Dinner. I get it. I get jokes.
I'll see myself out.
Yep.
So no emails or anything like that to read this week. I have been uploading episodes to YouTube. I'm hoping I've been working, and then just I found this website that's like, make a video out of one image, and it's just like I put in the image, put in the MP3 file, and it collates for a while, and then it spits out this file. And so I've just been using that over and over. I'll like take a break at work, put in those. My next break, I'll come back and download the file, and then I'll go and upload it to YouTube. So it's going very slow is what I'm saying. And there were some comments like, Dana said they were all going to come in like a big rush, but it's like one every few hours. And I'm like, yeah, you know. But I think by next week I may have had the whole of the Final Empire posted at least on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, just in case anyone was wondering, and you're getting alerts because you follow our YouTube channel, that's why it's all slow and stuff. But Joe and I talked about the best way to release, like once we get up to date to release episodes, if we wanted to release them on YouTube the same time we do, our show comes out, or if Joe suggested maybe put it on Podbean and then a week later release it on YouTube. Haven't really decided on that sort of thing yet, but I'm thinking about it. So that's just show news for anybody out there who was wondering about these things. So, like I said, 4 chapters for next week. And other than that, wuzzing to the time of next, everyone. Music by Miracle of Sound. I beat you.
Zoidberg.
New song by Miracle of Sound.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as a reaper comes to ground. You turn to face it down because you must.